Laura had always thought life with Mark and their son Ethan would be simple, steady, and full of quiet happiness. Their house was filled with small joys. Ethan's laughter echoing through the rooms, dinners where stories were shared, and the warm comfort of knowing they belonged together. She never imagined that the life she cherished could unravel so quickly. One evening, Mark simply walked out. There was no shouting, no dramatic fight, no anger. Just a quiet goodbye, a vague explanation that he needed space, and the heavy sound of the door closing behind him. Lara felt as if the air had been sucked out of the house. She stared at the empty hallway, her heart sinking with each second that Mark didn't return. Everything she had built, the dreams they shared, seemed to collapse silently around her. Ethan, sensing the tension, became unusually quiet. Lara noticed him sitting in his room longer than usual, staring at his toys without interest. He was only 8, but the confusion and hurt in his eyes mirrored her own. She wanted to explain, to soothe him, but words felt hollow. "Mum, will he come back?" Ethan asked one morning, his small voice fragile. Lara swallowed hard. She wanted to lie, to promise him a simple answer, but the truth was too heavy. "I don't know, sweetheart," she said, forcing a calm smile. "But we have each other, and that's what matters." Days stretched into weeks. The silence of the house became suffocating. Lara found herself walking through the rooms, touching the spaces where Mark had left reminders of himself. His coffee mug on the counter, his jacket by the door, and feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. She had never thought of herself as someone who would be abandoned. But now, alone, she faced the harsh reality. Bills piled up, the grocery store trips felt endless, and the nights were the hardest. Sleeping without Mark beside her made the loneliness almost unbearable. Yet, in the midst of this despair, she noticed something extraordinary about Ethan. He didn't just sit quietly and wait for life to pass. He began helping more around the house, putting away dishes without being asked, organizing his toys neatly, and even trying to cook simple meals with her supervision. One morning, she found him at the kitchen table, a small note clutched in his hand. It was a drawing of their family, but with an extra line written beneath it. "We can be happy again, Mum. I will help." Laura's heart ached and swelled at the same time. This little boy, so young, was showing her strength she hadn't realized existed in him, and perhaps even within herself. Ethan's assertiveness was gentle but firm. He reminded Lara that they couldn't stay trapped in sorrow. "Mom, we can't just let Dad's leaving ruin everything," he said one evening as she sat at the kitchen table staring at unpaid bills. "We need to be strong. We have each other, and that's enough for now." Lara blinked back tears. His words were simple, but they carried wisdom beyond his years. She realized that he was not just her son. He was a small guiding light, showing her a way forward when everything else felt dark. Life began to move, little by little. Lara started taking walks with Ethan, letting him choose the route to the park or the library. They laughed over ice cream cones and played on swings, allowing themselves moments of joy that felt almost forbidden in their sorrow. Lara noticed that Ethan's confidence grew with each day. He spoke his mind clearly, helped her make decisions about the house, and reminded her gently that they needed to keep living. In many ways, the roles were reversed. The child became the quiet strength of the family, the anchor keeping them steady while she navigated the storm of heartbreak. One particularly difficult evening, Lara sat on the porch and stared at the sky, the pink and gold of sunset reflecting her swirling emotions. Ethan came beside her without a word, settling next to her on the bench. He leaned against her shoulder and whispered, "Mum, I know it's hard, but we can get through this. I'll help." Lara felt her chest tighten, the tears spilling over at last. She hugged him tightly, realizing that she was not completely broken. She was being held together by the love and courage of her son. His assertiveness wasn't bossiness. It was determination to protect both of them from despair. In that moment, Lavra understood something vital. Even when the world seemed to collapse, even when the person you trusted most walked away, hope could still exist. Hope could come from small, unexpected places. And sometimes it came from the children you raised, children who, even at a young age, could teach you about resilience, love, and the quiet power of not giving up. Lavra felt the first flicker of something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in weeks. A sense that maybe life could be beautiful again. That she and Ethan could carve out happiness on their own. Even if it looked different from what she had imagined. As the first chapter of their new life quietly unfolded, Lavra realized that this heartbreak, though painful, had revealed a hidden truth. Strength could come in surprising forms, and even a child's small voice could carry the courage needed to face an uncertain tomorrow. She held Ethan's hand, whispered, "Thank you for being brave," and together they stepped into the unknown, ready to face life's challenges, one day at a time. Life began to take on a new rhythm for Lavra and Ethan. The first weeks after Mark left had been quiet, heavy with sadness, but slowly they found small ways to breathe again. Ethan, surprisingly mature for his age, became the anchor in their lives. He was no longer the quiet, unsure little boy who hesitated before speaking. He now spoke his mind, offered solutions, and reminded Lavra every day that they could move forward. It was strange to see her son, who had always looked to her for guidance, become the one to gently guide her through their sorrow. Lavra started noticing Ethan's subtle acts of leadership around the house. He organized their chores without being asked, set a small daily routine, and even encouraged Lavra to take time for herself. One morning, she found him making a list of things they could do together that week: small outings to the park, visits to the library, even a plan to bake cookies. "Mum, we can't just sit here and wait for life to fix itself," he said with a seriousness that made her smile and ache at the same time. She realized he was teaching her something she hadn't expected. Resilience could come in the smallest, quietest forms. They started spending more time outside the house. Lavra noticed that even short trips brought a sense of freedom. Ethan insisted on riding his bike to the park instead of staying in the backyard. They visited the library, where Ethan would run ahead with excitement, exploring books and bringing back stories to share. Lavra began reading alongside him, enjoying the sound of his laughter echoing through the quiet halls of the library. These outings became their lifeline, small pockets of joy that reminded Lavra there was still life beyond heartbreak. One Saturday afternoon, Ethan tugged at her sleeve with a bright, determined expression. "Mom, let's do something fun today. Something we haven't tried before. Life's too short to stay sad all the time." Lavra laughed softly, amazed at how her son's words could cut through the gloom she had been carrying. "You're right, Ethan. What do you have in mind?" He grinned and suggested a simple picnic in the park. They packed sandwiches, juice, and a blanket, and spent the day under the warm sun, sharing stories, playing games, and simply being together. Lavra realized that happiness didn't have to be complicated. It could be found in small moments when she allowed herself to be present. Ethan's assertiveness extended beyond planning activities. He often reminded Lavra of the importance of self-care, encouraging her to rest, to talk to friends, and to allow herself to smile again. One evening, after a long day, Lavra sat on the porch feeling exhausted and drained. Ethan came up behind her, placing a small hand on her shoulder. "Mom, you need a break. Let's watch the sunset together." Lavra leaned into him, grateful for his gentle insistence, watching the sky turn shades of pink and orange. She felt a warmth spreading through her chest, a mixture of love, hope, and a quiet sense of safety that she hadn't felt in months. As their days passed, Lara began to see that Ethan's growth was more than just maturity. It was courage. He was willing to face the absence of his father without falling apart, and he carried a sense of responsibility for both of them. This courage inspired Lara to slowly step out of her own shell. She began talking to neighbors again, taking small walks alone, and even picking up old hobbies she had set aside. Ethan's belief in their ability to move forward became contagious. She realized that his determination wasn't just helping him cope, it was helping her heal as well. That life was not without its difficult moments. There were evenings when the house felt unbearably quiet, and memories of Mark's presence lingered like shadows. Lara sometimes cried in secret, overwhelmed by the weight of everything she had lost. Yet, each time Ethan's presence reminded her that she was not alone. One night she found him sitting beside her, holding her hand. "Mum, it's okay to be sad, but we can't stay sad forever. We have each other, and that's what matters most." His words were simple, but they carried a truth that grounded her. She hugged him tightly, realizing that he was not just a child in need of care. He was her partner in moving forward, guiding her with a love that was patient, steady, and deeply reassuring. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. Ethan's assertiveness was balanced by warmth and compassion. He celebrated small victories with her, encouraged her to explore new possibilities, and reminded her that life could still be full of moments worth savoring. Lara found herself laughing more, smiling more, and even daring to imagine a future where happiness was possible again. She began to understand that life after heartbreak didn't mean erasing the past. It meant learning to embrace what remained and finding beauty in unexpected places. One afternoon, while sitting in the backyard, Ethan said something that stayed with her. "Mom, we've got this. Life might not be perfect, but we're strong enough to make it beautiful." Lara felt a swell of pride and love for the boy who had grown into such a remarkable presence in her life. He wasn't just her son. He was a teacher, showing her the strength and courage that could be found even in the aftermath of lost. By the end of part 2. Lara had realized that while Mark's departure had left a void, it had also revealed the power and maturity within her son. Ethan's assertiveness was a lifeline, guiding them both toward healing and opening the door to new possibilities. Together, they were slowly rebuilding a life filled with small joys, mutual support, and the quiet hope that happiness was not just a distant dream, but a reality they could create together. Life had begun to settle into a new rhythm for Lara and Ethan, and with that rhythm came unexpected moments of connection. Their days were filled with small adventures, shared laughter, and quiet evenings that carried a sense of calm after months of uncertainty. Lara had grown stronger, thanks in large part to Ethan's gentle guidance and insistence that they keep moving forward. But one ordinary afternoon, a new presence entered their lives, bringing with it a spark Lara hadn't anticipated. It started at the library, a place that had become their sanctuary. Ethan was happily absorbed in a pile of books about space and animals, while Lara was browsing the fiction section, letting herself be lost in stories that reminded her of the world beyond heartbreak. Daniel, a man in his early 30s, noticed them immediately, not in a way that made her uncomfortable, but with a warmth that felt genuine. He watched as Lara read aloud to Ethan, his eyes reflecting admiration for the bond they shared. When he finally approached, it was simple and kind. "Your son seems very curious," he said with a smile. "It's nice to see someone enjoying stories together." Lara smiled, slightly embarrassed but pleased by his friendliness. "He is," she said. "He loves learning about everything." Daniel's calm presence was comforting, and there was something in his tone that made her feel seen without judgment. Over the next few weeks, their interactions at the library became routine. He would stop to chat about books, exchange recommendations, and even help Ethan reach a shelf he couldn't reach alone. Laura noticed a gentle warmth in the way he engaged with them both, a kindness that felt safe and easy to trust. Ethan, ever observant, noticed too. One evening, as Lara prepared dinner, Ethan tugged at her sleeve and whispered, "Mom, I like Daniel. He makes you smile. And I think he's nice." Laura laughed softly, touched by her son's insight. "You have a good eye, Ethan," she said. "I didn't even realize I needed someone to make me feel this way again." Ethan's expression was serious, his eyes thoughtful. "Sometimes people help us without even trying, Mom. We just have to notice it." His words struck her deeply. In that simple observation, she realized how much she had missed, not just companionship, but someone who could bring lightness into their home. Their connection with Daniel grew naturally. He never rushed things, never pushed beyond what felt comfortable. Instead, he shared quiet conversations with Lara, laughed with Ethan, and respected their space while still showing a genuine interest in their lives. Lara found herself looking forward to these small encounters, enjoying the subtle excitement that came from sharing a story, a smile, or a joke. She felt a sense of normalcy return, one that had been absent for far too long. Ethan played an unexpected role in bridging the gap between past sorrow and the possibility of new happiness. One night, after a casual dinner, he spoke up as they cleared the table. "Mum, Daniel is really nice, and you seem happy when he's around. I think it's okay for you to like him." Lara paused, moved by his words. She realized that he wasn't just offering permission. He was encouraging her to embrace life again. His assertiveness wasn't about control, it was about understanding that they all deserved happiness, even if it looked different from what they had before. As days turned into weeks, Lara noticed herself opening up in ways she hadn't allowed since Mark left. She shared small personal stories with Daniel, laughed at his jokes, and even confided her fears. He listened without judgment, offering comfort through presence and understanding rather than empty words. In Daniel's company, Lara felt a sense of peace, a reminder that trust could be rebuilt, and that love could exist even after heartbreak. The bond between the three of them strengthened as Ethan subtly guided their interactions. He didn't interfere, but his approval mattered deeply to Lara. When he shared a favorite game with Daniel, or suggested a story they could read together, it was clear he had a voice in their new family dynamic. Lara appreciated this because it reminded her that the past didn't have to define the future. They could build something gentle and nurturing together, step by step. One afternoon, they decided to take a small trip to a nearby park. Daniel brought a frisbee, Ethan insisted on a picnic, and Lara packed sandwiches with a smile. The day was filled with laughter, playful competition, and quiet moments under the shade of trees. Lara noticed how Daniel's patience with Ethan mirrored her own care, and she felt a growing admiration for the man who had entered their lives so seamlessly. She realized that the spark she felt wasn't just attraction. It was hope, a feeling that love could exist again without fear or regret. Yet even in these joyful moments, Lara remained cautious. The memory of Mark's departure lingered, a reminder that life could change in an instant. But Ethan's presence, steadfast and assertive, gave her courage. "Mum, it's okay to be happy," he would say when he noticed her hesitation. "You deserve this. We deserve this." His words became a mantra she repeated quietly to herself, allowing her to feel the emotions she had suppressed for months. By the end of this part of their journey, Lara understood that new connections could bring light even after heartbreak. Daniel's kindness, Ethan's insight, and the quiet rhythm of their days offered a path toward healing. Life was slowly becoming brighter, filled with laughter, trust, and a gentle warmth that reminded her of what was possible. Though uncertainty still lingered, Lara felt ready to embrace the future with open arms, guided by the love and wisdom of her assertive, remarkable son. Life had slowly begun to feel whole again for Lara and Ethan, and Daniel had become a gentle presence in their daily lives. The small routines they had built, bike rides to the park, visits to the library, and quiet evenings on the porch, now carried a sense of warmth and hope. Lara had learned to let go of the sharp edges of her heartbreak, allowing herself to enjoy these moments without guilt. Ethan's quiet assertiveness had guided her every step, helping her recognize that happiness could exist even after loss. One morning, Lara noticed how naturally their home had changed. Laughter was no longer a rare sound, but a daily occurrence, often sparked by Ethan's quick wit or Daniel's playful jokes. Meals were lighter, conversations more open, and the quiet that once felt heavy now seemed peaceful. Ethan had grown even more confident, balancing childhood curiosity with the maturity of someone who understood the fragility of life. He encouraged Lara to take breaks, to pursue her hobbies, and to nurture her own happiness, always reminding her that they were a team. Daniel's relationship with both Lara and Ethan deepened gradually. He never tried to rush the connection, instead earning trust through consistent kindness and attention. He learned to anticipate Ethan's moods, joining in games, helping with school projects, and even sharing small adventures like trips to the local market or ice cream outings. Lara observed the gentle bond forming between her son and Daniel, and felt a mixture of gratitude and relief. Here was a man who respected their past, understood their present, and brought the promise of a gentle, secure future. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Lara and Daniel sat on the porch with Ethan between them. The boy leaned into his mother's side, a contented smile on his face. "Mom, I think this is perfect," he said quietly. "We're happy, right?" "Really happy." Lara felt tears prick her eyes, but they were tears of relief and gratitude, not sadness. She hugged him tightly, feeling the depth of his wisdom and courage. His assertiveness had been the glue that kept them moving forward, and now it had also become the guide toward love and joy. Life outside their home reflected this new balance too. Lara began reconnecting with friends she had lost touch with, attending small gatherings and enjoying conversations that were free from worry. Ethan, naturally social and confident, encouraged her at every step, sometimes playfully nudging her to talk to people she might otherwise avoid. Daniel was there, steady and supportive, never forcing, only encouraging in ways that felt natural and kind. Lara began to see that happiness wasn't about erasing the past. It was about embracing the present and letting the heart heal at its own pace. Their weekends became adventures that strengthened their bond. Picnics in the park, bike rides along quiet streets, and visits to new cafes became opportunities for laughter and connection. Ethan, thrilled by his new sense of responsibility, often took the lead, planning small surprises or choosing the routes they would take. Daniel admired his assertiveness, encouraging him gently while showing respect for his growing independence. Lara watched the two of them and realized that love could exist in many forms. The gentle love of a parent, the tender care of a child, and the patient, understanding affection of a partner. Evenings were filled with quieter, more intimate moments. Lara and Daniel would sit together after Ethan had gone to bed, sharing thoughts about their day, talking about books, or simply enjoying the comfort of each other's presence. She felt her heart open in ways it hadn't since Mark had left. Daniel's consistency, his respect for her boundaries, and his gentle humor slowly rebuilt the trust she had thought was lost forever. She realized that love didn't always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it came quietly, carefully, and unexpectedly, guided by patience and understanding. Ethan's role remained central. He continued to remind Lara of the small but crucial truths: that life could be joyful, that they were strong enough to handle challenges, and that love and care could coexist with the scars of the past. One evening, after a particularly sunny day at the park, Ethan said with a smile, "Mom, I think we're really lucky. We've got each other. And Daniel makes everything better." Laura's heart swelled. Her son, once vulnerable and unsure, had grown into a young boy who could guide, protect, and inspire. And in that guidance, she had found her own courage to love again. By the time the seasons shifted, Lara felt a sense of peace she hadn't imagined was possible. Their home was no longer a place of sorrow, but a sanctuary filled with love, laughter, and gentle adventure. The past, though it lingered in memory, no longer dictated her emotions. Instead, the present, filled with Ethan's assertive strength and Daniel's patient care, guided her toward a future she could embrace. She realized that happiness was not about perfection. It was about connection, trust, and the courage to open one's heart again. On a quiet evening, as they watched the sunset together, Lara held Ethan's hand and glanced at Daniel. "I think we're okay," she whispered, almost to herself. Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "Mum, we're more than okay. We're happy. And we'll keep being happy." Lara smiled, a deep sense of gratitude filling her chest. She had survived heartbreak, navigated loneliness, and discovered that love could return in unexpected ways. Her son's assertiveness had been the guiding light, and now, with Daniel by her side, she felt ready to embrace life fully, with joy, love, and hope for whatever came next. The future was no longer uncertain. It was filled with promise. Lara knew that challenges might arise, but the bond they shared, mother, son, and a gentle, caring partner, was strong enough to face anything. Their journey had taught her that life could surprise, heal, and restore happiness in the most beautiful and unexpected ways. And for the first time in a long time, she felt truly at peace, knowing that love, family, and hope could coexist, shaping a life full of warmth, laughter, and endless possibilities.